Are you
I'm sorry,
have you
bro.
like registered like your business as like
Yep.
a
Yep. Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
usual
Mm-hmm.
yada yada
LLC,
yada?
baby. Yeah.
Damn.
Hell yeah. That's
We're
it.
talking
That's
to
all
the
the paperwork I
CEO right now.
Congratulations.
received today. Oh, thanks, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that brings me to the topic of what I wanted to talk to you
Oh,
about
shit.
today. Banks. No, I'm just kidding.
Please don't.
How to open an account. That would be monumental that we start this podcast off on such a boring note.
The most boring podcast ever.
Finance podcast. Sorry, what were you going to say, Chatwin?
I said I was thinking that they should teach you that in high school anyway, just how to open
They
things
really
and close
should.
things.
They honestly really should,
Yeah,
but they don't.
And taxes.
and
I had to learn
taxes.
all that myself, and I still barely know anything.
Yeah, I thank God my parents have a CPA. I just send everything to the CPA, and the CPA does it. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
If you asked me to do my taxes myself, I'd have no idea what to do. To be fair.
Trust me, I don't. I'm probably losing thousands. Okay, sorry, I interrupted you. What are you going to learn us today?
Teach us the way.
Today on Everything is Everything podcast, David is going to teach us the way.
Yeah. Hold on, we gotta have an intro. No offense, not trying to be a dick.
All right. Before we do an intro, can I tell you guys a story?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. So my neighbor, okay,
Sorry, I
never
didn't mean.
mind.
Sorry, I didn't mean.
You're right. No, fuck my neighbor. No, we'll just.
I don't know why it autoplayed it. I just wanted to have it ready, and it just
that goes against one of the 10 commandments. Is fuck the neighbor. Let's play the theme song.
Everything is everything. Everything is everything. Everything is everything. Everything is 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 everything is. Hi, I'm David. Everything is 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 everything is. This is Eric. Everything is 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 everything is.
Hey yo, it's Chatwin.
Everything is 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 everything. So
anyway, though, I think we do need an intro. Hold on. Let's get an intro.
Oh yeah, right.
Send it.
Fair enough.
David,
I think you just gave us the intro, Chatwood.
No. Send it. Oh no.
All right, guys,
we have a
welcome
better
back.
intro than that.
You're ruining it.
We're coming into this episode just as sloppily as we left last episode. We're not harmonious. We're
All right, guys, ladies, gents, in-betweens, welcome to the Everything is Everything podcast with your hosts, Red Eye David, Frog Dog, Hamburger Chat, C Buttwin, and Student Rick, Prom Dog King.
That's me.
It's us again.
No,
so
that's me.
I guess, yeah, that one is you. The last one was you, yes. But collectively, we are us.
We're all me.
Okay.
Okay.
We're all Student Rick. So I just realized you named yourself Student Rick because I'm learning you today. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Teach me.
So I originally was going to talk to you guys about illegal Lego builds because it sounds interesting.
Spicy.
But something happened.
You got caught.
First of all, I was debating about telling you. Yeah, I'm going to jail. Sorry, guys. This is the first podcast from jail. Everything's Everything podcast from jail.
I don't know him. Never heard of him.
Got arrested for using the bricks.
Honestly, Chatwin and I both look like cops with our glasses right now.
Yeah, I feel really left
both
out.
Look like very bad motorcycle cops.
I feel really left out.
Do you have any aviators, David?
Not around me.
Yeah, I was telling David earlier, you're kind of missing out with the glasses. You kind of have to find some glasses.
I'm gonna have to get some glasses.
Well, David's also kind of podcasting in the dark, so then he'd be flying blind.
Yeah, I guess so.
He'd put his vape up his nose, thinking it's his mouth. Be a disaster.
Sunglasses in the dark is not a bad idea for a podcast name, though. By the way, if anyone wants to steal that, I give you a free license. Go ahead. Sunglasses
Or a song.
Sunglasses.
Don't tell the audience that they're gonna jump on it.
Or sunglasses inside. Yeah, I mean, hey, we're all here to learn and create.
I'm pretty sure that
Sunglasses
they already
inside.
made a
I
song
like
about that.
Probably. It's not. Nothing is original. Which brings me to
A podcast is just a long song. Oh yeah, go ahead, teacher.
first teacher to murder his students. Anyway, actually, no, that was our 7th grade teacher.
John Wilkes Booth. Mr. John Wilkes Booth.
Really?
No.
No. So originally I was going to talk to you guys about illegal Lego builds, but I ran into 2 problems. The first problem being that since we're primarily an audio-only podcast right now, I think it would be really hard for the audience to follow along. But I will tell you this. Basically, an Lego legal build is anything that puts strain or unnecessary pressure on the Lego pieces. Lego pieces being used in a specific way that they're not meant to be used, putting them into holes or slots that they're not meant to be put in, as such, is considered an illegal
sounds like
Lego build.
it's kind of sexual.
A little bit.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
All Lego is.
It's like advanced Legos.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And people use them to build, a myriad of things. So that was the first problem I ran into, was that I think it might be too visual for this. The second thing I ran into was I had another stroke of thought, I guess, that I wanted to talk to you guys about. And recently, I rewatched The Matrix. And I actually loved rewatching it so much that I went back and rewatched all of them. And
Yes.
by all of them, I'm including the 4th one.
Oh.
And I'm here to tell you that upon second viewing, and upon viewing it consecutively with the other 3 movies, it's actually not such a terrible movie. At least not as terrible as originally I thought, and I think most people think it is. But anyway, let's start at the beginning. Let's start with the original Matrix. Actually, let's start with the creators, the Wachowskis, okay? So if you don't know, which I'm sure both of you do know, the Wachowskis were originally the Wachowski brothers. When they conceived of this idea, wrote The Matrix, directed it, all that. And of course, this wasn't their first movie, but this was probably their first, most popular, biggest movie. They are now the Wachowski sisters. Both of them pretty famously transitioned to women. And so now both of them are women. Good for them.
Good for them.
And it has come out, a lot of people are fans of The Matrix. Everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people really liked it when it came out in 1999 and beyond. I first saw it.
Yeah, it was mind-bending.
It was
Oh, go
the
ahead.
biggest movie of 2nd grade.
Yeah,
That movie changed people's brain in a weird way. I don't think that movies have changed people in a way like The Matrix has. Now, Matrix 2 and 3...
That was my first R-rated movie.
Yeah, exactly, right? Matrix 2 and 3, yada, yada, yada. But the first Matrix...
No, I'm here to tell you, though,
cool.
It's not so much yada, yada, yada. Those are very good movies that get a lot of shit.
I know.
I actually really
love
like
them. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I do like them, but I don't think
there are problems with them. There are issues with them.
Yeah.
I think they do. The problem, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that because that's part of my presentation. Now, the first Matrix, right? It's a lot of people were fans of it, and to a certain extent, people were obsessed with it. And I even went so far as to write a paper about it in college for one of my film classes. And in this paper, I wrote about how The Matrix, the movie, is all about like an allegory to the Bible, and it's all these religious pretexts and contexts and names and all this stuff is in it, and it's all about religion and blah blah blah. And God, could I not have been more wrong? Apparently, and neither could everyone could have been more wrong. No one, I don't think, pinned this, at least not popularly, not to my knowledge, was it well known that the original Matrix was actually about being trans. Well, to a certain extent, was about being trans.
Okay.
if you, well, I mean, the Wachowskis have come out and said this. You can say whatever you want. It's your opinion. It's my opinion. But they made the movie. You know what I mean?
That's
So,
their reading of it.
and if you go
Fair.
back, and actually watch it, there are a lot, and at least in the first movie, there are a lot of hints and like what's the word I'm looking for? Like clues basically to them alluding to a trans nature. For example, being in the Matrix and then being your true self, right? Waking up to your true self. Your old self dies, you wake up to your true self. There was even a character in the first Matrix, I don't know if you remember, named Switch. She dies pretty early on when the rest of the crew are being killed by
Is she the
Cypher.
one that says, does she say not like this?
Exactly. She's
Not
the one
like
that says,
this.
not like this, not like this. She originally was supposed to, in the real world, in the normal world, be, I think, male or female. And then when she was in the Matrix, she would have been the opposite,
Switch
male or
genders.
female. Exactly.
Huh.
But Warner Brothers thought that was too horrifying or mortifying for people at the time. Again, this was
This is
1999.
99 after all. 98
Exactly.
when they were filming it, probably.
Exactly. So they settled on her just being kind of like a tomboyish girl, and that reflecting in both worlds. But you know, everything is there that points towards that. And what the Matrix, all the movies really boil down to is a story about love and a story about choice or the absence of choice. For example, in the first movie, right, Morpheus gives Neo a choice. You can take the red pill and find out what's going on, or take the blue pill and, you know, go back to living your mundane everyday life and enjoy. And then later on, this is where we get to the second and the third movies. Later on, when Neo meets the architect, I don't know if you remember the architect, the Colonel Sanders looking guy.
In the room full of computers or
exactly,
TVs or whatever.
TV, right, exactly. When he's talking to the architect, and the Oracle has already, you know, alluded to this a few times when he talks to the Oracle, that the presentation of choice, or the thought of choice basically is just an illusion. We've already made all the choices that we're going to make because we're pre-programmed or pre-wired. The way we grew up, the way we're genetically born, like nature versus nurture, it doesn't matter how we got there, but what matters is the choices are already predetermined for us. You know, and that's one theory of thinking, is that all of our choices are predetermined.
That also really lines up with the idea of the Wachowskis knowing deep in their heads, you know, maybe not consciously knowing it at the point, but they knew they don't feel comfortable in their gender. And
exactly,
like you know, who knows, because I haven't read enough interviews by them, but it could be that when they're writing this, they're writing the idea of this philosophy of choice being not as black and white as it seems, and then, you know, 10-20 years later realizing, yeah, no, I always did kind of know this in the back of my head, that I'm more comfortable in this set of, you know,
bits,
gender and stuff like that. It's fascinating because it's, you know, you read about where it's like some of these people, whether you be whatever orientation you find yourself in, whether you be gay or straight or queer, what have you, is not something you decided one day. You know, no one's
sure. Yeah.
All three of us, I imagine, are straight, unless anyone wants to step up to the plate and change their mind.
David's married.
Hey, you never know.
Yeah, okay, David, don't step up to the plate right now. If you have anything to say, keep it off the podcast.
Now is not the time.
Nadine, guess what?
Yeah, right.
But it's like you know that after a certain point, you know, even if you're not conscious of it, you're like, something's different. And yeah, that's fascinating. I've watched the first Matrix last year, and you're right. I think the first time I watched it as a kid, I just took it as, this is a great action movie. And it's cool that an action movie is so about computers. Because in the 90s, finally we're talking about computers towards the future. It feels like any 80s
Y2K?
movie that has to yeah, which was such a weird, like, boogeyman that people were talking about.
Right.
No, you're right. It's like computers were weird, and people were taking computers more seriously than they were, than people were taking them in the 80s.
And here's the thing about the Matrix. I think it was too ahead of its time. Not just in its digital effects and its editing, which it did win the Oscar for editing in 1999.
I didn't know that.
It did, yeah. It was because of the bullet time and everything, and the rest of the movie is very well edited. But the thing is, it was ahead of its time in its story and its thinking. And I want you guys, if you're willing, to go back and rewatch the first one sometime this week. Because thinking of it now and watching it now in the context where we do have AI and we do have like almost semi-sentient machines that can respond to you and are like pretty much thinking for themselves, it almost made the story so much more relatable and make so much more sense. And like I think before, I always had a lot of questions when I was younger about watching it, like, okay, I get it, Neo is the one, so he's able to have all these superpowers in the Matrix. But now understanding it, and maybe it's because I just paid more attention, but like now understanding AI and like understanding, if you listen to when Neo is talking to Morpheus, he's saying that the one is someone who is part of both worlds, the machine world and the human world. So basically, when Neo is inside the Matrix, he's able to fly and he's able to stop bullets and he's able to pretty much do whatever he wants because he is part of both worlds, right? He is machine and man. And that's again
Right.
something that can be kind of parallel with the trans thinking, but I think maybe and maybe not, because they do like to say, I was a man, now I'm a woman. Some like to say
But then
I'm
again,
both. It just depends.
it's like let's say someone now identifies as a woman, that forever, however many years before that, they were raised like the other gender, so they at least have that implicit knowledge. I get what you're
Right.
saying, is that
Yeah.
like, yeah, you've been in two worlds.
Right.
You entered this other world of your own volition, but you
Mm-hmm.
were in another world at one point.
Mm-hmm.
um
And now he's free, basically. Now his mind is free. And
mhm.
he's the one that, like, yeah, the prophecy foretells that he's the one that's going to end the war and bring peace. And eventually he does. So this is where we lead into the second movie, right? Neo has become the one in the first movie. And also, he died. Whoa. What's so funny, see, but
I'm excited to see how those two twins with the dreadlocks
I'm curious to see how you.
what's
what do they
funny?
represent?
Don't get me wrong. I think that I'm curious to see how you link the two.
Well, here's the thing. In the first movie, right? And I also had the question originally, like, okay, how did Neo come back to life, right? And I think a lot of people had that question. But the thing is,
I forgot Leo died.
yeah, no, Neo dies, right? He gets shot by Agent Smith in the hallway. But
Was this
he's
in the
brought
Matrix or in
in the first one,
the
yeah,
actual world?
no, in the Matrix. But he's
Okay.
technically dead, right? Because the body cannot live without the mind. However, because he's part machine and partly because of the love from Trinity, you got to throw the love in there.
Goes back to your
He
theme.
Yeah, he pretty much, his mind becomes fully machine pretty much. And now he sees everything in code, right? He sees everything in the Matrix strings, and when he's in the Matrix, he jumps into Agent Smith, which imprints something upon Agent Smith, and Agent Smith basically becomes his negative, because for every positive you must have a negative reaction, right? So Agent Smith is basically the -1, right? You have the one and you have the -1. So
There's
then we go
hints
into
of Star
the
Wars in this
yeah, absolutely. There's hints of Star Wars and sci-fi, and every sci-fi movie,
anime.
which originally comes from, I think, Dune is the father of the sci-fi. But anyway, well, that's a whole nother topic to get into. So then we go into the second movie, right? At this point, I think we start to move further and further away from the trans politics and the trans allegories, and more so into just a
At this
cool
point,
set of action movies. Uh-huh.
if I had to postulate, The Matrix made so much damn money and got an Oscar out of being an action movie, more or less, a heady action movie, that now Warner Brothers or whoever made it is stepping in and saying, okay, we need this many action scenes. We need, do another bullet time. We need some guys with white dreadlocks, and we need a Merovingian. We got to have the Merovingian in there.
Well, it goes further.
You remember the Merovingian, Chatwin?
No, I do not. I do remember though.
Oh, we're gonna
not remember the goddamn Merovingian.
We're gonna talk about the Merovingian. You guys are getting too far ahead.
Hand it off to me during that. I'm a Merovingian expert. Anyway, sorry. What I'm saying is,
we're here in the. What do you say?
No, what I'm saying is, David, you came so prepared.
You came in hot, David. Myself. Way hot.
Just gonna interrupt you with the I'm just gonna interrupt you with the theme song. Then how about that?
You gotta give us a reason to talk.
My own song.
Yeah, get just a breath of fresh air to talk.
Yeah, here. I don't even know what I was gonna say. I was gonna rap poetic about the Merovingian. I think this is a great topic, and also I love that this is it's becoming a sneak movie podcast, which has always been my goal.
Yeah, we've just talked about movies for the last two episodes.
Chatwin's going to come in next week about the 4K scans of Star Wars, which I'm excited for.
I actually, because of this, I ordered the Matrix trilogy in 4K on disc.
Is that the box with the bunny on it?
I don't think so. I don't know. It's coming tomorrow, so we'll see.
I saw a box set, and it's as much as I love the Matrix and I like getting 4K DVDs, it's a bad addiction of mine. There's a box set that has like the weird bunny tattoo.
Yeah, the white rabbit.
The white rabbit.
Yeah, the white rabbit. And it's such like it's just that like in the middle of all the green, and it just looked ugly. But that's just one man's opinion.
Yeah, I think it's the one with their faces on it, but I'm not sure. So anyway, so we're in the second movie now, right? Okay, so Neo has become unlocked. He started saving.
Hold on, wait, back up.
Oh Jesus!
Back it up a little bit. I'd like to actually talk about the first Matrix.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Because I agree with a lot of the things you were talking about.
Okay, sure, yeah.
However, I do not think it's about being trans. I think it's very religious. It's a lot about to do with Buddhism.
Well, there's definitely religious elements in it. I mean, the guy's name is Neo, Morpheus, Nebuchadnezzar, Trinity. Like, you have thousands of religious.
What about that is being trans? I don't.
None of that is about being trans. None of that is about being trans, but it's like certain things.
The idea of rebirth.
Exactly.
That's my point. The idea of
being your true self,
finding out that the world is nothing like you thought it was, and having to kind of make your first steps. Rebirth is a huge. Trans allegories always have to do with rebirth, because essentially, Neo, who was Mr. Anderson, just a guy with a boring computer job, eventually gets, who's comfortable in his own life, but seems unfulfilled because it seems like there's, just like in the end of the 90s, before 9/11, it seems like we had accomplished culture. And this guy approaches him, Lawrence Fishburne, looking like a bad man with a bald head and a leather duster, comes and says, everything you know about life isn't real. If you listen to me and follow me, I'm going to take you to the new life. And, since this is an action movie, people start hunting him down in his office, where he, goes, okay, I guess this guy isn't bullshitting. This weird guy that I met at a club isn't bullshitting me. I'll follow him. He takes the leap, it's the red pill, right? That joins him to the Matrix.
Right.
And the world he wakes up in is this nightmare world where he was like this, little fetus guy in an egg who was being used by a giant machine. Anyway, some of this is also just, it's a sci-fi movie. You gotta pad it with sci-fi hokum.
And to this point, we will talk about this more when we get to the fourth Matrix, because funnily enough, and
I
as
guess
much
we should
as
get a go on if we're only on
as much as you don't like it, there is a lot about the fourth Matrix that relates to this. So,
okay, jump into the Merovingian. I want to see how he gets into this.
Okay, so we're going into Matrix 2, right? And what you have to realize is that everything and everyone in the Matrix is a program or AI, except for the people who are people, but they're in the simulation, right? So all the agents, Agent
Neo,
Smith,
Trinity,
right? Those are free.
Morpheus.
Those are the free people. But everyone else is part of the system, part of the program.
They're computer programs.
And the agents and people like the Merovingian, the Oracle are all programs, okay? So when we get into Matrix 2, I think we do start to move a little more away from the trans politics and the trans stuff, and we do start to get more into just action movie stuff. And we do get a lot more involvement from Warner Brothers, as you were talking about, Eric. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the Matrix 2 and the Matrix 3, Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolutions, were actually released in the same year. They were released. First one, Reloaded, was released in, I think, May. I might be wrong on that, but earlier in the year. And then Revolutions was released in November. They were released 6 months apart.
Whoa!
Because technically, they're not movies 2 and 3. They're movie 2, part 1 and part 2. The Wachowskis have confirmed this. They've done like interviews about it. They actually wanted to release the third movie,
like a 5-hour movie.
No, they wanted to do it in 2 movies, but they wanted to release the third movie maybe about a month and a half after the second one. But Warner Brothers said, no. You got to ride the high. You got to take the year so that you can get separate awards for them, like 2 different years. You know, all the money grabbing politics that they're.
I'm going to side with the Warner Brothers on that. That wouldn't have been a good decision.
Well, it might not have been a great decision because ultimately both of the
artistically,
movies,
sure, it would have.
Yeah, and you know that's always a thing: the artist people versus the money people. But ultimately, you know, a lot of people didn't care for the sequels vis-a-vis Chatouin. But
shots fired.
Yeah, because it sucks. The first one's the best one. The first Matrix is the best Matrix.
Here's the thing. The first one was ahead of its time, and the second 2 following that theme were both also ahead of its time. But in the second one, the CGI deteriorated heavily. If you go back and you watch the scene where Neo fights all the Agent Smiths in the park,
that's ahead of its time to a detriment.
It's not good. It's not good.
They didn't have the processing power.
Yeah, it just is not good. It looks worse than a lot of the video games coming out around that time. It did not hold up well. But if you look at the machines in the same movie, the machines in the real world or whatever, hold up very well. And those are obviously very CGI too, but they hold up very well, whereas the fight scenes and that didn't hold up so well. But you can't really blame them for trying new things. That's like what the Matrix was known for. The Matrix came out with the bullet time. It was new stuff. It was, you know, fantastical.
I'm a little curious. Why do you think
we want to talk about the Merovingian? Oh, go ahead.
No, I want to hear about Matrix 4.
Okay,
well, first I'm going to talk about the damn Merovingian, Chowin. Because I'm going to talk about a horny French computer program that has models at his beck and call, and he's going to tell Neo, no, you can't do this.
Exactly. And so the Merovingian, and other programs.
What does that mean, by the way?
The Merovingian?
Yeah, what word is that? That's not a French name.
No, it's the Merovingian. I don't know if Merovingian means something.
Oh, I know the
Merovingian. Merovingian dynasty was the ruling family of the Franks from around the middle of the 5th century until 751. Oh, so he's like the king of the Franks, the king of France, pretty much.
Consider me wrong.
Yeah, so I guess
thank you for looking that up.
Allude to something. But so anyway, the reason, by the way, he speaks French, I don't know if you remember from the second movie, because he is a program and he says, I've sampled many other languages and I find French to be my favorite. So he has tried other ones.
He's like your Siri.
Yeah, he likes to curse in French was his excuse. But the Merovingian and other programs like him, the Keymaker, the Twins, and this is explained in the second movie as well, that by the Oracle, like anytime you see ghosts or vampires or whatever it is, there are programs in the system that pretty much refused to be deleted.
They were from an earlier OS, right?
Right. Anytime there's an update,
there's like a more fantasy-oriented OS.
Right. Anytime there's an update, the old program is sent for removal, but some of them resist. Some of them don't want to be deleted. They'll choose to go to exile instead, and that's why you have ghosts and such, phantoms of the like. Yeah,
that's dope as shit.
That's I like that they kind of explained every little Like little details like that in movies are fantastic. But the reason The Matrix 2 is a good movie is because it follows up on a lot of themes from the first movie, and second of all, it gives us some of the best action, I think, from any of the three movies. The fight scene with Neo and the dudes in the mansion, fantastic fight scene with all the weapons, the variety of weapons, swords, staffs, maces, nunchucks, shields, everything. You get it all there. Fantastic. Like, we've seen so many fights with guns, especially in the first movie, that it was beautifully refreshing to get a melee fight, and it was a fucking brawl. The next best thing we got from Matrix 2, yeah.
I like that about Matrix 1 is because it was not so much about fighting. It was more about your like own inner conflict. That's kind of what made Matrix 1 better.
Well, you got to go back and rewatch Matrix 2 then, because Matrix 2 has a lot more. No, you got to go back and rewatch it, Chatwin.
Okay,
rewatch it. And,
you know what? Eric gave me a bunch of fucking episodes to watch as well. God damn it!
I was about to say,
you got homework.
I got a watch list.
This thing has accidental homework.
God, Jesus Christ! No, Matrix 2 and Matrix 3 are sequels. Matrix.
I'm going to say
the best
Matrix
movie.
2 is a good movie. Matrix 3 is a bad movie.
The Matrix 3 is a little messy here and there, but
it needed more time in the oven.
The scenes in the real world with the mechs and the machines are fantastic. They did a really good job there. I think but anyway, we're getting there. The other good, amazing thing that the Matrix 2 gave us was the highway scene. I don't know if you guys remember the highway scene.
Hell yeah.
I do remember the highway scene.
Did you guys know?
My buddies, the ghosts.
Did you guys know they built their own highway for this movie?
Yes.
Really? Because no one would shut down their highway for that long?
Not because they wouldn't, but because it would be too expensive and it would be too time consuming. Because on a normal highway, it just keeps going, right? It just keeps going and going and going. And if you want to get back on the freeway, like back to where you were at the beginning, you'd have to exit, take side streets, go back on the streets, and then get back on the freeway to reset your position. So what they did was they built their own freeway. I think it was 2 or 3 miles, so that they would shoot the scene, right, or shoot whatever part of the scene they needed to shoot, and then the next, when they wanted to reset, they would just have all the cars go around, either go around or reverse, depending on where the cars were. But it would be so much easier than doing that, have them go around, then have them reverse every time on the actual freeway. A, stop actual traffic. B, have them reverse on the freeway. Or C, have them go all the way around on the streets. It would just take way too much time and money.
Money.
Making movies seems like such a pain in the fucking ass. Either of those solutions sound terrible. Like, I guess that's why I'm not a director, because if I hear that and I go, okay, we're doing this in a park instead. I don't have to pay for a park.
We're doing a dog chase scene.
No, you know what? Dogs cost money. I got to pay for dog food. We're just going to we're doing Gnome in the Home too, because we have a home and we have beanies. That's why, Chatwin, I forgot to mention, your hat is a very Gnome in the Home-ish, or at least it was when it was pointed up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can have it if you want.
No, I'm a one beanie man. I have a green turquoise beanie that I wear when it's cold. I have 2 of them. I have 2 of the exact same beanie. And I like dressing like a cartoon character, where I have so many shirts that I switch between and so many hats that I switch between. And and when I stub my toe, you hear a bike horn and I go, ooh, you.
Hey, Eric.
We were talking about the Matrix. What's up?
It's my turn. So let's get into the Matrix 4, because Chatwin doesn't like it. Eric hasn't seen it.
Oh, do you really?
And
don't watch it, Eric. I will tell you now. Don't watch it.
I'm going to mute you.
You can try.
It's actually not a horrible movie, but obviously there is a lot of difference from 2003, 1999 to 2021. I will say that I think the reason a lot of people didn't like it is because the movie is not the same tone as the other movies. It was very much Marvel.
It was advertised as a return to form. The only thing I remember from the trailer is Keanu holding the bullets back, just like in the first one.
Right. And he does do that. And the thing is, there's so many callbacks to the first movie and the second and third, but mostly the first, that it's almost like too much. And the thing is, with the fourth Matrix, Warner Brothers, and also, by the way, this one is done just by Lana Wachowski. Lily, I think, is the other sister.
Right.
Had no involvement in this one, as far as I could tell, at least from the credits. So this is Lana Wachowski and Warner Brothers, and they're doing pretty much. And they get so overly meta in the movie that it's almost too much. Are you trying to blind us? What are you doing?
I'm listening. I swear I'm listening, but I'm also playing around with my picture on the, because now it's finally bright enough that the sun's shining right at me. So
You trying to get a lens flare going? Lens flare effect?
Yeah. I think I have a feeling it wasn't like a Lily and Lana Wachowski had beef and decided, oh, you get to do the Matrix. I have nothing to do with it. I disagree with it. I think one of them was just more burned out on the idea of Hollywood than the other. Because I think,
yeah, I have no idea why.
I've got their names mixed up. The other one seems to mostly be doing TV, which probably is a lot more low stakes and more like a day job, which I empathize with that a lot. I would much rather do something smaller scale and get paid modestly, and the artistic expectations isn't as heavy. Anyway, so go ahead. Right. Matrix 4. I literally know nothing. I watched the first 5 minutes and I think I was too stoned, so I turned it off.
Yeah, it just got too meta with itself. And I mean, honestly, the way that they did the story wasn't horrible, because it is almost a direct continuation. It's set, I think, 60 or 70 years after the third Matrix, so after Neo saves Zion. There's a new city. Some of the machines are working with humans now. It's like, things changed. But
can I ask a question? And this is not to interrupt. This is more just because I didn't know there was a time skip. It makes sense. Neo and Trinity are now fully integrated within the Matrix. They're no longer in Zion, right?
Well, here's the thing. So
at the beginning of the movie.
Yes, correct.
So why do they age?
They don't. Well, they didn't. Here's the thing.
Because it's retarded, Eric. Don't bother yourself. It's stupid.
Their bodies were rebuilt. Hey. I'm gonna silence Frog Dog here. Their bodies were rebuilt by the machines. They have all this technology, so they obviously, this is set in like the year 2260 or 2260 at this point. So they pretty much rebuilt Neo and Trinity's bodies from their injuries, right? And then put them back into tubes, because the machines, ran calculations, algorithms in the Matrix. They put them back into their pods, and they ran different simulations and variations of the Matrix, which they updated, by the way. This is like the new version of the Matrix. So it better reflects, how the 21st century has gone. And so like everyone's like texting and their social media and stuff like that once you're in the Matrix. But yeah, I mean, again, like the Matrix, if you actually look at the fourth movie, though, in terms of the themes, in terms of choice, in terms of AI taking over the world, it's all still there. I just think that they Marvel-fied it too much, and they were too meta with it. Like, even when they're in the Matrix this time, the coffee shop that Neo goes to is called Simulate, I think is what it was called. And there's a store called Anderson's, and like there's just like too much, it was too in your face. And whereas the first three Matrix movies really had to make you think.
There's no jokes, really.
Well, yeah, there's no jokes, but whereas the first three really had to make you think. And like we could have sat here like we did for probably even more hours discussing what are the first three Matrix movies really about, what are all the themes involved in them, what's trans, what's not trans, what's fun, what's not fun, what's action, what's not action. We could sit there for hours for the first three movies and do that. and especially the first movie.
There's meat to chew on.
Exactly. But in this movie, it was literally just like spoon-fed meta fan service. And I think that's the reason a lot of people didn't like it. And I mean, I tend to agree. It's at best a 6 out of 10 movie. Can we talk about this bike horn real quick? Where is this? Is this a new characteristic of yours? What's going on? Who did you murder? Which 10-year-old did you murder and steal this off their bike from?
Honk it.
What was the first one for?
A bike.
I mean, I hope so, but you never know.
What else would it be for?
You never know with Chatwood.
Chatwin's doorbell broke, so he put
Chatwin...
a bike horn up to his door.
Chatwin, what was it for? See, he won't tell us. It leads me to believe it wasn't a bike.
I guarantee it's for a fucking bike.
I don't know.
It's in the name. There's nothing.
He's not using this one on a bike.
2 bike horns is strange.
He could be clowning on the weekends. Clowns need bike horns. They don't need bikes.
But clowns don't work on the weekends.
What do you mean clowns work on the weekends? Birthday parties?
Those are usually on Friday.
Circus acts?
Circuses.
Yeah, what?
I can't think of an excuse, damn it. Everyone's busy on the weekend. They can't go to
all right, should we outro?
Well, this is another illuminating episode of Everything is Everything, where our good friend David learned us about a movie series, a theory, a fourth entry that may be ill-regarded, but some can find merit in, and everyone's favorite, the Merovingian. So, coming up next week, our third host, our intrepid traveler Chatwin, is going to give us some knowledge on a subject we may not know yet. But regardless, we're going to learn. We're going to learn everything by the end of this life and our podcast, because everything is everything. God damn it. All right, I guess it's just me again.
Everything!
Everything is Everything is an ABD Productions podcast, executive produced and hosted by David Abdu, Chatwin Cray, and Eric Helling. Video and audio captured by Riverside.fm. If you have any inquiries, please reach out to us via everythingiseverything69@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.